5 players, 1 heartbeat. #JazzFam.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today we are looking back at the 3 games from Thursday and then previewing a busy day in the league for Friday. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed, and we'll start with the first game of the day. The Washington Wizards get the win over the Cavs, 124-112. Bradley Beal, fantastic again, and did it in under 30 minutes. 36 points, 8 assists with 4 triples on 68% shooting. It's just great to see the minutes being kept at a reasonable level. You could give him 3 or 4 extra ones here or there, and still producing at this great of a level. He can't be traded, of course, this season. We know that with the contract extension that he signed, he cannot be dealt this season. So many people panic about shutdowns. You know my thoughts on that. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Right, that's a real worry. They just won't stop playing him without an injury. Now, he's had those leg issues. That is absolutely a concern that pain could flare up at any point. And he does have to sit out games. I think that's a real worry. So now, as he's starting to roll again, I wouldn't be too adverse to trading away Beal for a top 20 guy if you could get him in that sort of a scenario. Ish Smith was down last game, but again, we have to take both of these teams' performances with a bit of a grain of salt, playing against the worst and the second worst defenses in each other. So Smith had 17, 4, and 5, which was strong, while Isaiah Thomas 13, 3, and 4. Smith is more of that 14-team league guy, Thomas more of a 16-team league player at this point, while Gary Payton, I don't know why we keep persisting with this. He's going to be out of the rotation probably as early as next game, in my opinion. 6 minutes in a start, didn't start the second half, or Isaac Bonga started there. I just don't see the point of the big mitten getting these minutes. Jordan McRae's minutes also very, very low. 18 minutes here, 4 points. He played 31 last game. He was 24 the game before that. I think mid to low 20s is probably where he settles in. Is that going to be enough? Probably not. But with 2 weeks to go before the trade deadline, it isn't a bad idea to just hold on to McRae to see what happens. But if things transition into this mode, especially when Hachimura returns and when Mo Wagner returns, pushing everyone down other positions, that is going to have an impact on someone like Jordan McRae. Now, the center position, the tank, Tom Bryant. It's real bad for him at the moment. Now, he's starting at power forward. Last game, he went from power forward to the bench to be the backup center, and I think that's because Onzes Pashesniks was unavailable. So in this one, they moved him back to power forward, but the minutes aren't ramping up. They're staying low. 17 minutes here, 9 points. Now, Jan Mahinmi might be traded. Davis Bertans might be traded. Who knows what's going to happen? But Scott Brooks does not like his defense. It's clear. To me, it's clear now. You might have differing opinions. And yes, they should absolutely be being cautious with a big man coming back from a fracture in his foot, and I 100% agree with that. But I worry that when he comes back, will he be a 24-minute-a-night guy versus a 29-minute-a-night guy, which is what he was playing before the injury? That's a real concern here with the improved performance of Mahinmi, the development of Pashesniks, the return of Wagner, the return of Hachimura. A few of these guys that we aren't that far away from seeing them return to the court, hopefully, and it is going to have an impact on Bryant. It's a real worry as to where he goes from here. As for Mahinmi, the minutes were there again, 7 and 7 in 28 of them. He still provides good defense. The stats come and go, more of a deeper league guy, while Troy Brown, just a deeper league player as well, 8 and 8 in his 26 minutes, while Bertans did what he needs to do, had 17 points with 4 triples. On to the Cavs, the Padawan, Collin Sexton, a really, really good game from him. 37 minutes with 29 points on 67% shooting, a perfect 7 of 7 from the line. He also gave us 4 assists and 2 steals and hit 2 threes. Now, he only attempted 2 threes and he needs to do a lot more of that. These sort of games from Sexton, that puts him firmly in that top 70, top 60 type discussion. It just doesn't happen often enough. But he has been improving over the last 3 to 4 weeks. There's no doubt about that. Of course, he is a must-roster guy. Well, Darius Garland, the shooting is rough for him at the moment. 2 games in a row, I believe, under 30%. 13 points on 17 shot attempts. 4 assists with 3 threes. I am still persisting with him in standard formats. How about Larry Nance? 22 and 12. Like Sexton, he took only 2 3-pointers. He hit both of them. And that's big from Nance. It's so hard to get a read on what they want to do with him, though. Last game, the minutes were up because there was no John Henson. Henson returned, and then it was Tristan Thompson that lost minutes, and Thompson did not play at all in the fourth quarter of this game, just never came back into the game. Some of that is blowout related, but how much of that's real? Are we seeing 25-minute Thompson or 35-minute Thompson? Because the big impact there is going to be on Nance's playing time, which has been at like 25, 28, 28 the last 3 games, with weird things in between, no Henson and low Thompson minutes in alternating games. Are they just making an effort to make sure Nance gets these high 20 minutes, which he should have been getting all along, and he is the bloke they need to be seeing how it works with him rather than someone like Thompson? I don't know if that's Beeline's plan. It's very different to how he treated Nance at the beginning of the season, where he was exclusively Kevin Love's backup, and that's it. And Henson would take the Thompson minutes, and Nance would take the Love minutes. It's changed significantly since then. I think we have to grab him in all leagues at this point and just see where this goes. I've been on record as stating many times, I don't think Thompson's going to be a valuable player in the fantasy playoffs. 6 and 3 in 21 minutes here. That's not to say he's an outright drop here, but I think he's trending in that way. While Dante Exum was rough. Remember that game he had where he scored 20 points? I'll reference that forever because he scored, I don't think he even scored since that game 20 points combined in any of the contests. Kevin Love had 21 and 5 with 3 triples. A pretty strong game from him again. Getting him traded off this team could be actually a real positive for him. But again, how that's going to happen and who's going to want to take Kevin Love is still the big question mark with that one. If you know your basketball, why don't you try MyBookie? It is the place for you because they let you turn all of your sports knowledge, not just the NBA, into cash in your wallet. Between the Super Bowl coming up, the NBA, college basketball season, it's time to get off the sideline and get in on the action with MyBookie. If you're that bloke who likes to bet a little to win a lot, try a parlay. For instance, if you like a couple of the big favorites this week, parlays are perfect because they let you bet multiple games together for a much bigger payout. If you're going to bet this season, do the smart thing and go to mybookie.ag because no one gives you more ways to win. If you join right now, MyBookie will match your deposit halfway, all the way up to $1,000. That means if you deposit $2,000, you get an extra $1,000 in free money to play with. Just use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA to activate the offer. Once again, that's the promo code LOCKEDONNBA to take advantage of MyBookie's generous sign-up offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, and you get paid. The next game up for us to look at was the Lakers handling the Nets pretty comfortably on the road, 128-113. Anthony Davis, only the 27 minutes, didn't need to push him any further in this one. He had 16 and 11. Those minutes will ramp back up eventually, while LeBron had 27, 12, and 10. LeBron James comfortably beating Kyrie Irving in this game, while Dan Green knocked in 4 triples with his 2 steals and a block, and that's really where his value comes from. But his minutes are so low, he's just a streaming type option. There was no JaVale McGee, so Dwight Howard started at center, and he was really, really good. 14 and 12 with 2 steals and a block on 70% shooting. Actually lower minutes than what he's been playing. He is an excellent specialist, but not a must-roster player. Look, if you need the rebounds, if you need the blocks, Dwight can give that to you, but it's not a guy that needs to be rostered everywhere. I'd probably have him over DeAndre Jordan, to be honest, in a league, but not a must-roster guy. Rondo dropped in 10 assists. He's an assist specialist streamer, while Kuzma is a points streamer. 16 points for Kuz in his 28 minutes. Avery Bradley continues to do nothing, while KCP had 11 points in his 28 minutes. Also a bit of a Jared Dudley cameo. 2 steals, 2 triples in 17 minutes for duds. For the Nets, Kyrie had 20 points with 4 assists and 2 steals. Not the best night, but not too bad. While Dinwiddie's struggles continue. 7 points on 3 of 9 shooting. That's really rough. The 13 assists are great. The 7 rebounds are great. The fit with Kyrie is a real question mark. I don't know what it's going to mean. I don't think it's going to be a trade. But does it mean we get back to 25, 26 minute a night Spencer? I reckon we're moving that way because things are not going well. LeVert played only 23 minutes. Now he scored well, 16 points, but shot horribly. 4 from 4 from the line is still solid from LeVert, but 23 minutes isn't getting it done for me to be a must-roster 12-teamer. With Both Nick Claxton and DeAndre Jordan out. Baby Neck Wilson Chandler had to play some center, and he played well. 15 points in 22 minutes. Shot the ball really well. Not something I need to get too excited about here. While Joe Harris had 2 threes, he's like a worse version of Duncan Robinson at this point in terms of your ability to use him in 12-teamers. Not all that high. Well, Jarrett Allen was bad. I'd consider a buy low on Jarrett, but the problem is when Jordan comes back, he goes back to a 26-minute-a-night guy instead of a 30, 31-minute. He just got dominated by Howard in this game, 7 and 8 in 30 minutes with a block. Not much else to really talk about, I think, with this Nets. Oh, actually, that's not true, because the artist formerly known as Torian Prince had 18 points and 3 steals and 3 triples. His role is fairly secure. If you can deal with the field goal percentage, he's fine. The rebounds weren't quite there yet, but they've been up all season. He can give you some threes. He can give you some steals. You just have to watch how bad his field goal percentage can be, because it can be pretty rough, as we've seen over the course of this season. All right, last game of the day, the Dallas Mavericks and the Portland Trail Blazers. The Mavericks get the win in the end, 133-125. The margin was larger than that, and Portland sort of made it a bit closer towards the end. The Mavericks didn't start Maxi Kleber in place of Dwight Powell. They went small with Seth Curry there. I think some of that is to do with the Blazers matchup, and we know Carlisle's got no problem mixing and matching. He started JJ Barea in the second half last game without Powell. You'll get Kleber starting. I think you'll get games where you might even get Delon Wright back into the starting lineup. But Kleber still played 23 minutes, had 15 points with 2 triples and 3 blocks, and you obviously can't complain about that. So he still is a 12-team league guy. Seth had 17 points with 4 triples, which is absolutely useful. It's more 14 teams, but if he's going to start and play 25 minutes, there's use in that. While the burner, Jalen Brunson, also stepped it up, 17 points with 4 triples. Now, the Mavericks were hitting everything here, 47% from 3. So there's a lot of elevated numbers in this game. I wouldn't be too excited about Brunson there. Curry's an interesting one. And the other guy to look at here is Wright, as I mentioned. He played 28 minutes. Now, if he gets 28 minutes a night, most nights, he'll be a 12-team league guy. 9 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. It's not his best night, but he can add steals, he can hit threes, he can get blocks as well. He didn't do any of those things in this game. He is I would prioritize Wright over Curry based on how this game looked. Porzingis had 20 points. He only played 25 minutes.
Percentages.
He had 3 triples and 2 blocks. So a pretty strong game from him. While Doncic, 27, 6, and 9 with 2 steals there. While Timmy Hardaway struggled a little bit, 11 points in 29 minutes. And Justin Jackson went from DNP-CD to playing 26 minutes. Oh, and guys, Boban didn't play at all. This is why he is not a guy that's an ad. On to the Blazers, Damian Lillard, 42 minutes for 47 points. He's absolutely on fire. 108 points in his last 2 games. 8 triples and 8 assists here. There was still no CJ McCollum in this one. Trevor Ariza, 36 minutes, 21 and 7, 4 threes and 2 steals. Now, like I mentioned with Reggie Jackson the other day, Ariza won't do this continually. He was an 82% true shooting. The 35 minutes, yeah, you know what? Maybe he does that. But he's not going to be this efficient. He's not going to take this many shots because McCollum's going to come back and take them. So this was great, and you can add Ariza for his steals value, and he can hit some threes. This is not the Trevor Ariza that's been in the NBA for the last 3 years. There's a lot of flukiness with this. Mallow had 16, 11, and 5, while Hassan Whiteside had 14 and 10. Not his best game. While Gary Trent, Gaza, 20 points with 6 triples in 31 minutes. Of course, CJ's going to cut a lot of his value down. It was Simons who started in place of McCollum. Trent's outplayed him for big stretches of this season and did it again here. Simons had just the 5 points in 23 minutes. I don't really know. I know the Blazers talk him up. He's super talented, all this sort of stuff. I don't know what he does that's great from a fantasy point of view. I know he can score. We haven't really seen that too much, but he just doesn't do enough in any of those other areas to get me massively, massively excited. While Caleb Swanigan came across, played 23 minutes. He took all of Nasir Little's minutes in this game and the minutes that we were getting from Anthony Tolliver as well. 23 minutes, had 2, 5, and 2. That's really just deeper league stuff, but that's a weird rotation to see Little out of the rotation entirely in this one. And of course, Labissiere and Nurkic are going to come back, as is Zach Collins, and that's going to have an impact there on Swanigan, who isn't much of a fantasy guy in general. Let's look now at some injury news. Thankfully, not too much to talk about. Joshy Richardson's hammy, 2 to 3 week evaluation. That puts him out probably until 20th of February, which is the first game back from the Sixers after the All-Star break. So you'd have to imagine that's going to be a month of real-time action. His value this season's been up and down. I think you It depends on how your team looks and where you're in the standings and other injury guys you've got, but he has to be considered a drop if he's going to be missing a month of action here, which is a real possibility here with this hamstring. While Malcolm Brogdon's got a concussion, so he will miss Friday's game. They don't think it's too serious that he'll miss too much time after that, but concussions are tricky. They're unpredictable, so more time could be missed for Brogdon, who's missed so much time already this season. Let's move on now and talk some DFS action. All right, we're doing DraftKings pricing for Friday's slate. There is that early game on, the Bucks and the Hornets, played over in France, which is 4 hours before any of the games tip off. Therefore, it's not included in the main slate. I'm not going to be looking at it here. You shouldn't play any slates, I don't believe, that have it included. There's just too much information that you don't know in that 4 hours leading up to the other games. You can check out projections for that game over on Basketball Monster, but we are doing DraftKings today. Memphis at Detroit. The Pistons are 1.5 point favorites here somehow, and the total is 227.5. Andre Drummond has been upgraded to probable, while Bruce Brown and Tim Frazier are both questionable. Of course, Reggie Jackson is back, and he was explosive in that first game. At point guard, the Shark, Bruce Brown's at 46. You should have zero trust in that, while Ja Morant is struggling at the moment. Therefore, his salary has come all the way down to $7,000. I think that makes him an interesting tournament sort of a guy, because we know if he's rolling, he'll smash that, but he has been a little bit down. Derrick Rose at 76. That's a very big price for Rose, who is exceeding that on most nights. I'm not sure about the value in him at that sort of a salary. I still think he's okay to use. It's probably just pushing a little bit too high for me, though. While Reggie Jackson dropped 38 in 19 minutes, DraftKings points-wise at $4,500. That's jumped him up $1,500. His ability to replicate that is exactly zero, because he won't be able to have a 72 true shooting on a usage of 36%. Again, I guarantee you that. But he's still at $4,500, could be looked at as a 20, 24-point DraftKings guy. I still don't really buy into that, though. At shooting guard, Dylan Brooks is at $5,700. The roller coaster continues. He had 8 points last game, and a couple of games before that he had 50. He is all over the shop. He has bounced back generally from adversity pretty well this season, so I like him as a GPP guy, while McKay Look is a low upside option who I don't care for that much. For your small forwards, Sekou Doumbouya, 4,500, benched last game for being late to shoot around. I imagine he goes back and starts, but he's averaging under 20 in the last 5. The matchup is a strong one for Sekou, so if you want to use him in a tournament, this is the time to do it. I probably wouldn't be doing that, though. While Crowder, the version 2.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
He's actually just been shit lately, averaging just 17 points over the last 5. Not someone I'm massively into, as you can probably tell. For the big man, the big avocado, Andre Drummond's at 9,500. Absolutely sign me all the way up for that one. He's averaging 51 over the last 3, and this is a super positive matchup. Big on him, while Triple J's at 66. Probably more tournaments. He's done well against Drummond in the past, but not really looking at him as a cash guy. While Valanciunas is almost a 40-point lock at this point, and at 7,200, that's tremendous value. Centers have been dominating Drummond. Brandon Clark, Christian Wood, really hard to see those guys getting enough minutes, especially Wood now with Drummond likely back and playing. Next game, the Celtics and the Magic. Both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are listed as questionable. Enes Kanter is out. Of course, if one of Tatum or Brown is out, Marcus Smart gets more minutes. If both are out, then Smart and Hayward get more touches. And it ups the value of guys, ups the minutes of guys like Shemi Ojeleye, Javonte Green, Grant Williams as well. But it's just going to be a lot of Kemba, a lot of Gordon Hayward, and maybe a lot of Daniel Tice, who's been playing pretty well. At point guard, Markelle Fultz hurt his finger in the last game, but he's going to be fine to go. He's at $6,000. I like his floor value there, while Carter Williams at 36. 26 DraftKings points in 19 minutes is nothing to sneeze at. The matchup's a little bit of a tougher one here, but MCW is going to have a role, and that salary is pretty attractive for him. So I don't hate him here. I think Kemba at 75 looks really strong, especially if one of the two J's is ruled out, while Smart himself at 59 will become an excellent play again if one or both of those guys are sidelined. Wanamaker could get some more minutes as well, but he is a pretty low upside option. At shooting guard, Brown is at 6,600. I like that if he plays. I like that quite a bit in that scenario. While Fournier at 56. It's a relatively attractive salary for Fournier, but is his upside actually there enough for me to get too excited? Probably not. Terry Ross at 54, I am in on. Even for cash at the moment with how he's been playing. And then you go on to the small forwards. You've got Tatum's at 74. Love that as well, averaging 45 over the last 3. And Gordon's at 59, who is probably more of a cash guy. He just can't seem to get anything cracking. But even with what he's doing, he's still providing close to 30 points a night, which gives him some cash floor value. Gordy Hayward's at 68. That's $1,000 price rise for Hayward. I would only look at that, say, if Tatum is out, and then if Brown is out as well. While Awundu and Birch, they're not going to do too much. And then for the big men, Vooch's at 8,400. Love that. He's a 40-point guy almost every night. Really think he is a 45 opportunity for him in this one. Mo Bamba, no thank you. While Vanilla Tice at 53. Tice is averaging 29 points over his last 5. There's no Cantor. There's no Rob Williams. I think we get higher minutes from Tice in this one, and I actually like him as not a bad cash option. I don't like Vincent Poirier, although I do like saying it. On to the next one, the Toronto Raptors, the New York Knicks. The Raptors are 7.5-point favorites. The total is 215.5. Rowan Barrett Jr. is out, while Lord Alfred Payton's at 55, and he's just giving us 30 after 30, and at 55, I'm here for it. While Lowry at 7,000 is coming a long way down. The salary and the production aren't quite matching up just yet. So he's an okay guy without being a great option. While Van Vliet at 77, I love his ability to get 40. He seems to be getting it every night. For your other point guards, Dennis Smith and Ntilikina, sure. And by sure, I mean no. At shooting guard, Reggie Bullock, $4,000. He's probably going to get another start in place of Barrett. He's also probably going to do nothing in that start, so not someone you should be prioritizing. While Storman Norman Powell is at 58. He's giving us 30s regularly. The problem is they're coming on like 56, 57% shooting. If he has an off night, there's not much else there to back it up. So I reckon he might be a fade here. While Marcus Morris at 6,000, really like his floor at that sort of a price as a small forward option. The Jedi, OG Anunoby.
Hello there.
He's averaging 8 points in the last 3 games, so to say he is off my radar would be fair. While Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, also not someone we can look at, same as Damo Dotson. For your big man, Julius Randle's at 8,000. While he's been a strong 35-point guy, I'm not sure he's a $8,000 guy, a 40-point type of a player. So probably leave him out here, while Mitchie Robinson's at 47, just not getting enough playing time or taking anywhere near enough shots for me to be looking at. While Siakam's at 77 and hasn't even got things rolling yet, Pascal, but still giving us close to 40 a night. I love that salary for Pascal Siakam. Punch Bob, no thank you, while Marcus Sol at 49.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Playing so well after coming back from his hamstring injury. I don't feel the trust in that for DFS. Walt Barker at 53. Also, not a bad cash play, but a pretty limited upside guy. The Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Rockets here are favored by 5. The total is 234.5 points. At point guard, Jarrett Culver's at 47. It has been rough for Culver of late. I only want to trust that in a I wouldn't want to trust it, sorry. I only want to consider it in a tournament. While Shabazz Napier's at 5,300. Even though the scoring's not quite there, this is a positive matchup for Shabazz. He's averaging 25 over the last 5. He's a high 20s, low 30s minutes guy. I don't mind that as a cash point guard option. Jimmy Harden's at 11-1, not being really even close to being or to bursting through that value. I have no problem with using Harden, of course. He's got a really strong floor number, while Westbrook is killing it. Westbrook's at 10-4. He's averaging 65 over the last 5. His rebounding numbers are up. I'm all about using Russ here. I think he's a really good option. McLaughlin and Rivers, probably not. At shooting guard, Wiggins is at 7,000. Assists are up for Wiggo, and production's up. 42 average over the last 3. I think he's worth at least going before that price rises too much more. Okogie, not a good DFS guy. Well, Eric Gordon got hot last game, had 33 points, but I'm not really going to be relying upon him. And Ben McLemore is doing absolutely nothing in his minutes. At small forward, Bob Covington not playing all that well alongside Karl Anthony Towns, and that was a problem at the beginning of the year as well. Let's see if that continues, but I'm not keen on using him while he's struggling, while House and Bates Diop are not options for me. For your big man, Capella at 76, I love that salary. A 40-point night is an absolute possibility here for Clint, so I like it. While Townsy's at 10-2, and he looks like a 50-point almost minimum sort of a player, so good value in both of those guys. Tucker, Jeng, Hartenstein, not guys we should be really caring about for DFS all that much. The next game we look at is the Clippers and the Heat. Jimmy Butler is questionable. They think he's probably pushing closer to probable, which is good news, obviously. Patrick Beverley is questionable, while Paul George is out. Kendrick Nunn and Goran Dragic are also questionable for Miami. So some wild shit could be happening there. That would give a lot of value to Tyler Hero. Depending on which guys are in or out, maybe it bumps Dragic, maybe it bumps Nunn, maybe it bumps Duncan Robinson. There's a lot of... Maybe we see Dion Waiters play for once. There's a lot of options there in Miami with all those injuries. Although, again, it looks like Butler will play. At point guard, Lou Williams is at 7,400 with Kawhi will be back. With George out, Lou is a 35-point guy most nights. Happy with that. Patty Beverley's at 53. If he plays, given Paul George's absence, I don't mind Pat as a cash guy, while Dragic at 6,000 could really explode if we do have Nunn out or Butler out or both even. So there is some real value potentially there in Dragic, assuming he plays. Same goes for Nunn at 5,900. I worry about him the most here because of Achilles soreness. I never like to see that injury designation, and I especially hate when players play through Achilles soreness because we've seen it so many times turn into an Achilles tear. Rodney Hood, David Nwaba, it's happened. Kevin Durant had the calf issue. It happens so often that it scares the shit out of me, especially if he plays. So hopefully nothing bad goes wrong there. At shooting guard, Jimmy Butler's at 8,400. Had been a bit down, but he's giving us 40s at the moment. The matchup is not a super strong one for Jim here, but I think if we get one of Nunn or Dragic ruled out, he looks to be a pretty strong option. While the Spur Dunk Robinson is always a tournament guy, he just doesn't consistently provide that value we need. Landry Shamet's at 43, not a good DFS guy, while Hero at 46 could become an absolute lock if a couple of those guys happen to be ruled out. Jerome Robinson and Rodney McGruder are far from locks. Derek Jones at 38. He's averaging 13 points. The minutes aren't changing. Sometimes he gets hot, but very, very rarely. Not interested in him. While the fun guy, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm a fun guy.
Yeah, you are. He is absolutely dominating without Paul George. His production with George not there is like 20-25% higher in general from a DFS perspective. So you should be looking at him as a 55 type of a guy. I really like Kawhi in this matchup going up against Miami, especially just because Paul George isn't there. For your big man, Bam Bam Adebayo's at 8,200. Probably a little bit too high, although going up against Montrezl Harrell is always a good thing for opposing centers. Well, the Harrell, I was going to call him the Harrell. The table, Montrezl Harrell, 7,200, has a relatively okay floor. I always worry about him, but Doc plays him through it. At some point, he's not, and it's going to be a concern with his defense. I'd probably fade off him. Zubat's just not enough upside there. While James Johnson's been playing pretty good minutes, it's not really translating into good DFS numbers, though. The Sacramento Kings and the Chicago Bulls, the John Salmons Bowl. The Bulls are favored by 2 points and the total is 221. Of course, Larry Markkinen, Thomas Satoransky, Chandler Hutchison, and Ryan Archer-Jacquino are all listed as probable. While for Sacramento, Marvin Bagley and Richaun Holmes are out again at point guard. Satoransky's at 47. They're not playing him enough. He's not producing. I'm not interested in using him. While De'Aaron Fox is at 8,100, who has been good, but probably not at that level. And the Bulls consistently this year have been really limiting opposition point guards. So I probably would lean away from him. Kobe White's at 42, only ever for tournaments and not that keen on him. While Dunn at 55, I think that salary is probably a little bit too high. At shooting guard, Levine's at 88. Yep, fine. 45 point up. No worries with Levine. Love it. Love the matchup. I also love the floor value in Bogdan Bogdanovic at 5,200. Bazemore's not going to play Ariza minutes, thank God. So that can give Bogdanovic some value here. As for Budrick, he's at 6,900.
Giggity.
Of course he is. Heald averaging 34 over the last 5. I think we can probably do a little bit better than Heald on this slate. At small forward, the pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He's at 5,300 for some reason. I'm not really sure. He's barely a 20-point guy at this point. Not really interested in him. Chandler Hutchison similarly. And then onto your big man, The Undertaker, Dwayne Dedman, 4,600, 30 points in 31 minutes. He's going to start again. Let's absolutely go. I'm here to use him. How he could shit the bed, but I'm absolutely here for him in this one. While Markkanen's at 5,800. I actually like that for Lowry as well. Sort of got back on track last game. Luke Cornett's at 4,400. Really tough to trust his minutes. He's not even getting to 20 a night over the last 3, which is a worry. He played well against the Timberwolves. I don't imagine that's going to continue here, so I'd fade off of him. While Chris Felicio started the second half in the last game and had 28 points. Is he a wild-ass flyer? It's definitely wild. Do I see it happening? Probably not, but I don't rule it out completely. In fact, I might be inclined to take a GPP flyer on Felicio over someone like Luke Cornett. the Denver Nuggets and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pels are favored by 3 because the Nuggets are without everybody almost. The total is 231. Now, we don't know if Michael Porter Jr. or Gary Harris are going to play, but we do know that Paul Millsap and Jamal Murray aren't. This team got smacked by 20 points by the Rockets with all 4 of those guys out. And, of course, if Harris is in or out, it's going to affect his value. Same with Porter, and open up numbers for those other guys. So quite a few scenarios that could occur here. We do know Monty Morris will be starting again. He's at 5,000. Probably more of a tournament guy than anything, given the nature of the positive matchup here. While Drew's at 74, I would not want to use Drew given the way that the usage shook out in Zion's first game. While Lonzo's at 7,100. Absolutely in on Lonzo. He is crushing it at the moment. Big up on Lonzo Ball. Malik Beasley's at 4,300. If Gary and Mick Porter are out, I think that is absolutely worth a GPP sort of an option. While Josh the Hitman Hart and JJ Redick not going to do it for me. Gaz Harris is at 46.
Nice, Gary!
I think he could be a tournament player if we do see that he's ready to go, especially if Porter is out. While PJ Dozier at 3,100 had 22 points last game. Only really an option if both of those other guys are sidelined. Brandon Ingram at 83 was not good in Zion's debut. Let's hope that's not what's going to happen to him moving forward. But at 83, I like the value, especially for tournaments. And Mick Porter had 49 the last time we saw him. He's at 6,800. Some real value is opening up here for Porter if he is healthy. I know that that's a high price for him. So I am a little bit cautious about using him with the back stiffness. But tournaments, absolutely. For your big man, Derek Favors at 59, had 27 points in 23 foul-plagued minutes last game. He can easily get to that number. I wouldn't feel good about using him. While Big Chungus at 9,700, Nikola Jokic, he should be a 50-point guy. Really, really in on that. And Jeremy Grant at 6,000. That salary is coming up, and that's taking away some of the appeal for Grant. Now, with Plumlee out, I do think that 6,000 is a good price, though, for Jeremy. While Zion had 35 points in 18 minutes, and his salary is now all the way up at 6,400. I don't think he's going to hit 4 threes in 13 seconds like he did the other night. I don't think it was 13 seconds, but it was close enough. And I think the minutes limit's still going to be here. So at that elevated salary, I'm not all that keen on using Zion in this scenario. Well, Jackson Hayes, probably not going to get it done for me either. Let's go. Next game, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are hosting the Atlanta Hawks. No spread out for this one at this point because Trae Young is questionable, as is Steven Adams. Of course, if Adams is out, we're looking at Noel. If Young is out, we're looking at Teague and Herter, who get the big benefits there, or even Brandon Goodwin, who played really well last time out. Chris Paul's at 7,400, absolute floor lock. Love that for Chris Paul. And Gilgeous-Alexander at 78. He's giving us 40 a night as well. I feel a little bit better saving the $400 and taking Paul, but both of those guys are options. While Trae Young's at 9,400. That is an absolutely nonsense price for Young if he plays. That's the concern, but I love that price if Trae Young is ready to go. While Schroeder at 6,500 is on a real hot streak at the moment, averaging 37 over his last 3. There's always skepticism about his level of shooting, but it's been good for most of this season. I still think that is maybe just bordering on a little bit too high. Well, Teague's at 48, and that would be great to use him if Young is out. At shooting guard, Luguentz Dort's at 3,300. He is starting with Terrence Ferguson out, but he's not really going to do much. Hamidou Diallo is not doing anything either. While Fanta Pants is at 59. That's only a tournament guy for me if Young happens to be sidelined, while Reddish is only ever a tournament player. At small forward, the Italian cock, Danilo Gallinari.
Hands off my cock!
He's at 6,800. That's a pretty high price now. He'd been playing well until last game's dud. I think he's not bad as a cash guy there. We know the minutes are going to be fine for him. While DeAndre Hunter is way all over the place, not interesting enough. Steve Adams at 63, too high. Alex Len at 41. I don't hate that. But I think we can probably find better center options. Bruno Fernando isn't one. While Johnny Collins, the Baptist, at 84. Don't really like it if Young plays. Smash the shit out of it if Trae is out. He had 67 in that game last time out when Trae didn't play. And then, of course, Noel at 5,100. He's got some value on his own, but if Steven Adams is out, that's one of the best ones on the board. Next game, it is the Phoenix Suns. The San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are favored by 4. The total is 229. Bainesy is doubtful once again, while Cameron Johnson is out with his hip issue, which is obviously a concern. He doesn't have a hip issue. It's Baines that has the hip issue. He's got a thigh issue, Cam Johnson. My mistake. At point guard, Maximum Derek White.
Maximum Derek.
He is outplaying DeJounte Murray at the moment. He's averaging 33 over the last 3 in 27 minutes, and 33 points at 4,900 is good. Do I trust him playing 27 minutes a night? I'm getting there. I'm not quite there. So he's more of a tournament guy. DeJounte, it's really hard to get trust there. Bryn Forbes, of course not. While ravishing Rick Rubio was a dud last game out, the matchup's a strong one here for Rick, and he does well against San Antonio. I think that he is an interesting low roster percentage guy that we could look at 7,300, while Booker shit the bed in the last game, as the whole team did, to be fair. 8,700. I think he gets back on track and can go close to getting a 50 burger. For your shooting guards, DeRozan's at 79. It is starting to come down now, as is his production. Probably find a better one, but I don't completely dislike that. McCall Bridges, I'm not keen on, and Lonnie Walker similarly. Rudy Gay, no thank you. Other small forwards, Kelly Oubre's at 6,900.
Giggity!
Has there ever been a price more perfect for a player than 6,900 for Kelly Oubre? He's averaging 34 over the last 5. The last couple have been a bit down. Not really feeling Oubre here in this one. His hot shooting has cooled way off, which was always expected by me anyway. LaMarcus Aldridge, 7,500. Really like that one. He has made a history of dropping 40, 50s on the Spurs, while Ayton was bad in the last game, as everyone else was. He's at 8,500, so it is a pretty high salary, but the matchup's strong. He should be a 40 to 45 point guy, so I do like DeAndre Ayton here. Pirtle and Lyles and Diallo, they're not moving anybody's needle.
Giggity!
The last game we look at, the Pacers and the Warriors, this has got real blowout written all over it. No spread currently out for this one. Malcolm Brogdon is out with a concussion, so Aaron Holiday and Timothy John McConnell will step into that role. Draymond's at 5,400. I can't get interested in that at all. Holiday at 45, I do like that, but he's not been good the last couple of games. This matchup, though, is one to really get interested in, while D'Angelo Russell's at 78. It is a bit of a negative matchup for point guards against the Pacers. Russell, though, should feel pretty good for at least a 35-point floor, so I do like him. McConnell dropped 41 in that last game on the Suns' head. He's at $5,000. It's a high price for McConnell, but if you're going to drop 40, then that's obviously worth it. And the matchup's a positive one, too, against the Warriors. He's more of a tournament guy to me. Alec Burks is at 5,900. Was bad against the Jazz, #revenge game, but prior to that, he'd been playing pretty well. This is not the matchup to use him, I don't believe. Or Jeremy Lamb is bad at the moment. No, not keen at all. Damian Lee, similarly. Justin Holiday and Glennie Robinson, no thanks either. Jordy Poole's an interesting one, who's scoring pretty well. He's a little bit all over the place, but at 3,600, he could be a 24, 25-point guy. Just a weird tournament guy that you can consider. Small forwards, Dougie McDirt, Tony Warren Jr. I like Warren at 6,000, a solid cash option. And the triangle, Eric Pascal, just with Green playing, there's not enough minutes for him. For your big man, Cauley Steins at 46. Not really. Miles Turner at 49. Not really. Domantas Sabonis is at 8,600, which I really, really like. And I still think McMillan doesn't really sit the starters all that much in a blowout, so that helps Sabonis. I think he can get to that number and get there relatively comfortably, while the Wizard Amari Spellman and Marquise Chris probably shouldn't be on your DFS radar. Let's have a look now over on FanDuel at some other options. Dedmon, Rubio, Holiday, Monty Morris, Bogdan, Andy Wiggins, Marcus Morris, Napier, Jeremy Grant, Brook Lopez in that early game if you are going to do that. Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle, all come out as pretty good options. Subscribe to me, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and do it on YouTube. You can find the button somewhere down here. Here somewhere, yep. Click that button down there. Leave your comments down below. Follow me on the social media accounts. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Emmanuel Mudiay.